This is a Kahan TV Sports Break. I got Vlad Katajczyk here, the NBA expert. So today's topic is the trade deadline, which came and went. And well, I'll just start off by mentioning, Vlad, that before on our last segment that you were here, the last time you were here, you predicted solidly that Carmelo Anthony would get traded.
Well, look, I've been wrong before, and it's not the first time. It probably won't be the last time.
Okay, well, so Carmelo Anthony is staying on the Knicks. What does that mean for the Knicks for this season?
For the season, not much. I mean, they're just going to continue being what they are, a huge disappointment, or maybe not even a huge disappointment, just what they are, the Knicks. They stink. What are you going to say? You know, they're just, like we've said many times, it was in the segment from last time when we talked about the Knicks, that they're a joke of an organization and they're terrible, and they're just going to continue to be terrible for a long time. And it's hard to say really who is to blame 100%. There's so many people involved that, bear that burden of responsibility of like why this organization sucks from the top down, So
well, does that mean you don't think they'll make the playoffs this year?
No, they don't have any interest in making the playoffs. They don't want to make the playoffs. They don't like each other. They don't like their coach. They don't like the organization. They hate everything about being a New York Knicks. So why the heck would they make the playoffs? They don't want anything to do with it. I mean, is it out there for them? Possibly, because the East is so bad and the 8th seed is in reach, because really you don't have to really win that many games in a row to make it to the 8th seed. But no, they're not going to make it. No chance.
All right, well, that's enough for the Knicks. We'll talk about some other teams as the trade deadline came and went who maybe could have used Carmelo Anthony, teams that are contenders who could have possibly elevated themselves to real contender status.
Sure.
We'll start with the Celtics, who didn't really make any moves. Do you think that they have enough to compete for the East? They
have enough to compete to get to the Eastern Conference Finals, but probably beating Cleveland, they would have needed a trade for this season at least. Not to say that they would have beaten them even if they made that certain trade, but I mean, there was players out there. There was obviously Paul George, there was Butler, from the Bulls. I mean, I don't know if they were in on Carmelo at all or not. Probably not. But that was, these are players that would have helped them if they wanted to somehow, compete or even surpass the Cavs. So that was definitely a team that needed, to make a move if they wanted to do something further. Another team is one of, the shirt that you're wearing, the Clippers. That's your team. They were a team that really needed something because the wisdom is that we know that these guys cannot get over a certain hump, right? So they needed to do something to further the roster or improve the roster in a certain way, whether that was to trade, Redick, Crawford, Rivers, whoever they had to give up to get whoever they needed. If that was Carmelo, then let it be Carmelo, because they needed to shake up to the roster and they needed to do something, because as it is, the wisdom is, the thinking is among experts and people that watch basketball regularly, they cannot win as is. And since this is the last season, or possibly the last season for many of these guys, at least the free agents at the end of the season, their contracts are up. This was the time to do it, and now they're going in with the team they've had, and it won't be enough. I mean, it just won't.
So they're your big disappointment from the trade deadline. You think they should have just done something?
Well, obviously you don't want to do anything that will cripple your franchise. I'm not in favor of that. Like, maybe there was nothing for the Celtics to do without giving up, huge amounts of young talent and that Brooklyn pick that's going to be theirs. And Brooklyn's like the worst team in basketball. So obviously, I understand from the Celtics' point of view. The Clippers, on the other hand, there's a real fear that they might be losing some of their players due to free agency and just players not wanting to play with each other anymore and whatnot. So that was a trade if they had a chance to really go all in. Like, hey, we're going all in. We're going to try something. It might not work, but hey, what do we have to lose? Let's just go all in on Carmelo. Let's try to get him and keep, Griffin and Jordan and Paul. And let's just try to, with those 4 guys, let's see what we can do. I think that was worth the risk, but maybe that trade was not possible for them. So I can't just say, hey, cripple your franchise for years to come because, hey, you got to get Carmelo. But I think it was something that if the price wasn't that steep, they should have done it. And I don't know. I mean, maybe there's just too much pressure on Zach Rivers being the coach and GM, and he couldn't pull off a good trade for them to get a star player.
So that's all for this edition of Sports Break. We'll be back. Going to talk about the Lakers.